Did you know that for centuries, the dominant narrative has been that Africa had no history before European contact? It's a lie with devastating consequences, a deliberate erasure of vibrant civilizations, rich cultures, and profound intellectual traditions. Today, we confront this historical distortion, revealing the truth about Africa's glorious past, a past deliberately buried to justify enslavement and colonization. Let's begin by looking at ancient Egypt. Long before the Greeks or Romans rose to power, Egypt flourished, a civilization of monumental architecture, complex social structures, and profound spiritual beliefs. Its origins stretch back to around 3100 BC with the unification traditionally credited to King Nama. But Egypt wasn't alone. To the south, in present-day Sudan, the Kingdom of Nubia, also known as Kama, emerged around 2500 BC. By 1000 BC, the Kingdom of Kush became a major power. In fact, Kushite rulers conquered Egypt, establishing the 25th dynasty. Kings like Pi, Shabaka, Tahaka, and Tantamoni ruled over a vast territory, a testament to Nubia's military and political strength. The city of Meroe became a prominent Kushite center from about 300 BC to 350 CE, showcasing advanced urban planning and ironworking. Let's shift our focus to West Africa, a region teeming with powerful empires and sophisticated societies. The Ghana Empire flourished from around 300 to 1200 CE, controlling vital trade routes and amassing immense wealth. Then came the Mali Empire, rising to prominence in the 13th century under the leadership of Sundiata Keita. But it was Musa, who ruled from 1312 to 1337, who truly put Mali on the map. His pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 became legendary, a spectacle of gold and grandeur that astonished the world. Later, the Songhai Empire dominated the region from the 15th century until its defeat in 1591. Rulers like Sunni Ali and Askir Muhammad oversaw a period of expansion and prosperity, establishing Songhai as one of the largest and most powerful empires in African history. Moving east, we encounter the Aksumite Empire, which thrived in present-day Ethiopia and Eritrea from the 1st to the 7th century CE. Aksum was a major trading power, minting its own coins and participating in the Red Sea trade network. Further south, Great Zimbabwe emerged as a major political and trading center from around 1100 to 1450 CE. Its impressive stone structures, built without mortar, stand as a testament to the architectural prowess of its builders. When Portuguese explorers arrived in the late 15th century, they were astounded by what they found, but falsely attributed its construction to outsiders, refusing to believe that Africans could have built such a magnificent city. Timbuktu, in present-day Mali, became a renowned center of learning from at least the 13th century CE. The Sankor, Jingoreba, and Sidi Yahya mosques formed the heart of the city's intellectual life, attracting scholars and students from across the Muslim world. The Timbuktu manuscripts, a vast collection of texts on astronomy, law, medicine, poetry, theology, and mathematics, reveal the depth and breadth of African scholarship. Africa was deeply integrated into global trade networks, participating in the Trans-Saharan, Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and Mediterranean trade routes. African societies exported gold, ivory, salt, enslaved people, hides, and textiles, while importing ceramics, glass, horses, cloth, ideas, and religious traditions. This exchange of goods and ideas fostered cultural exchange and economic development. So, where did this false narrative that Africa had no history come from? The evidence clearly shows that African societies had kingship systems, states, empires, oral historical traditions, written records, architecture, urbanism, law codes, political institutions, and trade networks. The idea that Africa had no history was a product of colonial era prejudice, not historical fact. Arabic chronicles recorded African history for centuries, particularly in North Africa, the Sahel, and the Horn of Africa. These chronicles document the histories of Mali, Songhai, Ethiopia, and Borneo, providing invaluable insights into the continent's past. Oral epics and genealogies preserved historical memory in many African societies, passing down stories of heroes, kings, and migrations through generations. The Atlantic slave trade was a brutal and systematic exploitation of African people. An estimated 12.5 million Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic, with around 10.7 million surviving the journey. The Middle Passage, the voyage across the Atlantic, was a horrific experience, with an estimated 1.8 million people dying en route. Portugal, Britain, France, Spain, and the Netherlands were among the major powers involved in this trade, which lasted from the 16th to the 19th centuries, peaking in the 18th century. The consequences of the slave trade were devastating, including population loss, political destabilization, the militarization of some regions, and the establishment of forced labor economies in the Americas, which led to a long-term racial hierarchy. The scramble for Africa, which accelerated after the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885, resulted in the partition of the continent among European powers. This conference formalized European claims and established rules for colonial acquisition, completely ignoring existing African political structures. Colonial rule imposed new borders, labor systems, tax regimes, forced cultivation, missionary education models, and archives that privilege colonial narratives. Great Zimbabwe provides a powerful example of historical distortion. For decades, colonial writers falsely attributed its construction to non-Africans, claiming that Africans were incapable of building such a site. However, in 1929, archaeologist Gertrude Cotton Thompson demonstrated that Great Zimbabwe was built by African ancestors of the Shona-speaking peoples, proving the colonial narrative wrong. But even before European contact, African women held positions of high political power. Amenarines, a Kandake of Kush, fought against Rome around 2422 BCE, fiercely resisting Roman expansion. Nzingamban ruled Nongo and Matamba in present-day Angola in the 17th century, leading a valiant resistance against Portuguese colonization. Yasantoa led the War of the Golden Stool in 1900, standing up against British colonial pressure in Ashanti. And Moemi Ajesoro, in Yoruba oral tradition, is remembered as a strategic political figure who saved her people from invasion. Africa has also profoundly influenced global religions and scholarship. Ethiopia preserved an ancient Christian tradition with the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, a testament to the region's early adoption of Christianity. Islam spread rapidly in Africa, with Muslims finding refuge in Aksum during the first Hijra around 615 CE. African scholars wrote extensively in Arabic and local scripts, producing works on astronomy, inheritance law, medicine, theology, and grammar, as evidenced by the Timbuktu manuscripts. Independent of European influence, Africa developed its own metalworking and state systems. The Nok culture in present-day Nigeria, dating back to around 1000 BC, is renowned for its terracotta sculptures and early ironworking. Ife developed sophisticated naturalistic sculpture by around the 11th-15th century CE. The Benin Kingdom was celebrated for its bronze casting and city planning, with Benin City described by some early Europeans as one of the most impressive cities they had ever seen. It's crucial to remember that Africa is not a monolithic entity but a continent of immense diversity, encompassing thousands of societies with different languages, political systems, religions, technologies, and historical trajectories. Treating Africa as a single unit is itself a colonial simplification that erases its rich tapestry of cultures and histories. Oral history is a vital source of information in many African societies, preserved through griots, praise poetry, royal genealogies, epic performance, and ritual memory. Oral transmission can accurately preserve data across centuries, particularly when studied carefully and cross-checked with archaeological and written sources. The myth that Africans had no history served specific political purposes, to justify enslavement, colonization, land seizure, and racial hierarchy, presenting Europeans as civilizers. This was not simply ignorance but a deliberate and usable ideology. The denial of African history has had a damaging impact on global scholarship, skewing school curricula, distorting museum collections, delaying recognition of African achievements, and encouraging the theft or mislabeling of African artifacts. It shaped racial ideology worldwide, with the civilized versus uncivilized binary becoming central to slavery-era propaganda, colonial administration, 19th-century scientific racism, and apartheid-era thinking. The idea of African inferiority was used to normalize exploitation and oppression. When African history is taken seriously, the entire story of world civilization changes. Egypt and Kush were central to the ancient Mediterranean world, shaping its culture, politics, and economy. The legacies of these empires continue to resonate today, reminding us of the importance of understanding and celebrating the full spectrum of human history. Scene 1: Sahara Desert at sunrise, wind-sculpted sand dunes, no people, cinematic 8K.